I am a man with many enemies.
The elevator opens for no one.
The Boston Red Sox.
And plans on making me.
The mayor of Boston. The governor of Massachusetts.
I'm paralyzed into you.
Boston Globe.
And plans on making me.
It's a war.
And plans on making me.
We're going to battle it out.
All sit there,
Everyone
won't be
looks
entertained,
like
won't learn a fucking
everyone.
thing.
My dick's so big, doesn't even matter. He's 2 feet tall.
And nobody will get in trouble. Now, of course, everybody's gonna kill each other having to watch it.
He's gonna fucking open his mouth, it'll fall right in.
You're too busy to accept it.
And it is going to be, when it's done, the most successful podcast in the history of mankind.
And we already met.
Listen, there's only one Minifan show.
Everyone looks like everyone.
It's right here.
And plans on making me. And plans on making me.
No protection.
All right, boys, here we are, another episode of Quantum Kirk. Happy Labor Day to you boys. So we're going to get into a couple of topics, but I do want to address something about the network really quick. BA, another show for you, buddy. You've done them all, I think, at this point. You're the new Clout Vader.
Clout Vader, yeah, I guess so. I try to help out producing, helping you guys produce, helping Poppy's Kitchen. Mike and the Minifans, what's the Menners Live? Yeah, I've been on them all. I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna go on.
Robbie V's next.
Robbie
V show.
In Robbie V, that's the only two you got left.
You know what? I'm having a great. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
It has been.
So.
It has been. But I do want to address something at the top that happened last week, and it's on the network, and it's to do with Menners. So, like everyone's seen BA here. John is not gone. I don't know if Menners is doing a WWE bit. I don't know.
We weren't going
to
to play this up. We weren't going to say that John got fired.
Nah, I mean, come on, dude. And like Menners literally is mad, calling me a backstabber and blah, blah, blah. And I had no idea what was going on. I guess Danny and John shared a text that Menners sent. But I don't know if Menners actually wants John gone off the show or it's like a bit. Like, I really don't know. But John B, we're doing the Rich Kelleher experience. Long way of saying this is BA's all-time favorite episode. Is that fair to say, BA?
Yeah, I also think it's like the most re-listenable episode. And then when we get into it, it's like it's almost like an episode of Always Sunny where it gets funnier the second listen because there's so many like references that it's like it's
well, I mean, don't you say that, don't tell Montante that because he already listened once and he can never re-listen again. You know what I mean? So we're not going to do that. But
I understand for the bulk of the shows, but this one is like for a hardcore fan. I even think for a new fan, this could be like the intro episode that people are like, "What the fuck's going on?" and gets them hooked. I really do.
No, it is a great episode. Re-listening to it was wild. I re-listened to it today, so it's really fresh in my head. But yeah, so BA's just filling in for this episode because he likes this episode so much. So John was like, "Hey, BA, just produce it." So Menners, he's not fired, nothing. We're not doing this whole bit thing. Anything on that, Danny, before we kick it off? Since you were the one that shared a text or whatever and got him all pissy. Got that little Australian rat DMing me. Yeah.
Yeah, all that happened was I texted John because he had, very nicely produced our recording last week. And as of that evening, Menners hadn't received the recording. So that was it. So I texted John and I joked around with John, like, haha, Menners still wants to fire you. Isn't that hilarious? Like, very just sort of offhand text, not that exciting. And then I guess John then posted that in a tweet and Menners saw that and then was very unhappy.
For a guy who likes taking shots, Menners sure is a little thin-skinned. I'll tell you that.
It was nothing. A little thin-skinned. That was the weird thing too. And there were two other DMs that I had nothing to do with. So I don't know if something else also pissed them off. But then he roped you in with it and called you a backstabber, which was kind of funny because you're like, I don't even know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on.
I wasn't at first. I wasn't even sure. I kind of figured it out later. And then I did respond with a very long text to him, which he made fun of me for. But I kind of just laid it all out and explained.
I never want to see that again the rest of my life. So like that's not never do that again. But anyway, let's get into.
I figured there was a lot going on.
Drama.
So,
yeah,
we're grateful for John's help. We're grateful to have BA here.
Exactly.
You can just tell me the guy's he's already having a great time. You can tell he loves being on camera. He just loves the Kirk Minahan show. He loves the Kirk Minahan network. So it's just it's an honor to have him, and I think it's a fun new dynamic here to with Quantum Kirk to start having the third man in. So
absolutely. So this is like you're our first official guest, BA. And if anyone really loves an episode like BA does this one and wants to come on and review with us, we'd be more than happy to do that. So
we got a couple in the hopper already. So we've heard from a few people. So it'll be exciting.
So BA, this episode, we're gonna get to Rich Kelleher, but it's like 3 shows in one. This episode, I would say. Because the first, what do you think, boys? 45 minutes, an hour is laying out the K Marco drama, correct?
Just about.
Yeah, I think, the first hour, there's a few things that pop up, but first hour, primarily K Marco.
K Marco, you hear some names that it's still relevant. Danny, we do this all the time, but it's 4 years later. This is pre-COVID. This is September 2019. It's Tom Brady, ended up being Tom Brady's last season with the Patriots. The Patriots had just played the first game that night and signed Antonio Brown. So just to paint a picture of where we are at this time frame, that's what's going on. And, they're in Red 13. I didn't even realize that this episode, BA, the Kelleher experience, was at Red 13. I had no clue. Did that get you
So the beginning, I was like, why does this sound like shit?
Yes.
And then I was like, what? It sounds like shit. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's maybe Cullinane really did a lot of work to upgrade the sound. But then later on in the episode, you realize that they're at Red 13. So then that all makes sense.
Yeah, I did. It sounded like I was like, yeah, this sounds way different than the show does now. Way different, So BA, what's the first clip that you have? What's the name that pops up that you had talked about this pre-show?
So the first clip I have, it's actually 8:20 into the show, and it's the first instance of a big investigation into the Kirk Minahan world.
Yes, go ahead, drop that.
Did you see this guy on Twitter who's claiming that you did not finish in second place in this hot dog contest?
Yeah, he says in the 2016 one. Obviously, I never said I was in the 2016 one.
Which year was it?
It was 2013.
Oh, was it
2014?
2013? Or what year was it? We need to. Oh, Did you finish second in the hot dog contest? This is your last chance because this guy's digging.
I finished second. If we have to, I'll get Harlan Ackerson to come on here and vouch for me.
The guy messaged me and started it with something to the effect of I've been sitting on this for a bit.
So the first mention of Harlan Ackerson, Steve is definitely caught in a lie here. He's caught in a lie. He never finished second in the hot dog eating contest. He just didn't.
I think because back then I was doing what my first claim to fame was the Steve's Lies list, and I remember this episode I had 7, or I had a bunch from the beginning, and then looking back, I didn't even realize a bunch of them were from this episode because you think of the insanity that happens at the next hour, but so much happens in the first hour that's a recurring theme for the show till this day. To this day, 100%. He's clearly caught. He's throwing names out there. There was obviously a parody account that afternoon, right? After the show dropped. Once again, we're at the no YouTube stage. So we're just, they would tweet stuff out that was going on in the show. I remember seeing the picture of Kelleher on top of Cullinane, sitting on top of him. And then you listen to the show and it's literally, he's, they see him moving over there and stuff. So that's kind of crazy. But this is at the point where you're and I vaguely remember Kirk tweeted out, Steve didn't finish second, and I tweet that out. And it's Danny, what do you think? Was he lying? Did he ever finish second in a hot dog eating contest?
He may have finished in the top 3 at some hot dog contest at some point, but yeah, obviously there's some shady memories. You can tell he didn't think he'd get called out for it, and as soon as he started throwing years out there, and it's about 2013,
like 2013,
because it's such a dumb thing to lie about, but it's the kind of thing that Kirk's going to jump on, and the fans are going to just be all over it. So once it was out there, once he let that slip, I mean, that was the end of it. Because then the in-house hot dog eating contest was maybe 2 weeks later.
Yep.
I mean, they set that up pretty soon after this, so it had a mind of its own.
It's funny that they're talking about the wrap up show drama in this, but they're also they talk about DEC the car, how he would do the recap show and wrap up show, and they would do the Steve car crash segment.
Yeah,
where
great segment.
And then this first half an hour I think has 2 or 3 Steve car crash segments.
Oh, easily.
So it was really funny.
Yeah, Kirk even mentions it. I think if everyone is going to re-listen who watches this, I think Kirk mentioned, he goes, "Oh, DEC, just you're done for this week. This is your segment right here."
Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up, BA, because like now around the show, especially with the producers and everything that's going on, and Menners and you really reviving the network and getting everything going and getting back in the mix. It's funny that this was pre-network, obviously, too. And, you know, the main voice, the Menners of the time, shall we say, was DEC.
Mm-hmm.
And then the BA of the time is, you know, MHB. So it's kind of, they're using the drama of that, and they're involving that. So it's funny, 4 years later, the show is still kind of doing the same sort of, but just different characters.
Yeah, it's funny too that at one point in the episode they're like getting mad about who gets to do a wrap-up show, or is it like it's the same thing, like Quantum Kirk. Oh, who could do Quantum Kirk? Like it's like funny how it's like comes full circle. Like,
time is a flat circle in this world, man. I'm telling you.
It's so dumb. I saw a few friends yesterday, and one of my buddies was like, "So, Kirk Minahan Network, what's the deal with that?" And somebody I've never talked to about this before.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to him any of
Impossible.
this, and it's impossible to not sound like a complete nerd.
Yeah.
You know, like, I talk to my internet friends, and I do a YouTube show that's about 3-year-old shows, and he's like, "What?
Yeah.
Why?"
I had same thing. I had buddies. Yeah.
He's like, "You're a grown man with children."
Yeah, I have a clip that where Steve explains the Minifans to the world.
But go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
I think the best way to understand it is that there's a hardcore group of fans of Kirk Minahan who all want to be close to Kirk Minahan, and they do unusual things in order to get close to Kirk Minahan.
Well, we know that, Steve.
But I'm just giving the bird's eye view of the situation.
Boy, you really put it all together.
I mean, he's not super wrong. He's not super wrong.
No, it's just funny how he's not wrong, but I think that's the time where Kirk said, "Oh, you got the car crash segment, DC."
Yeah. Oh man,
the high regard with which DEC is referred to among everyone except Kelleher.
Except Kelleher,
amazing,
it's crazy.
Right?
Yeah. Like Kirk's like, "Oh, he does a great job. He does this." Like the tone.
Hashtag Kelleher was right.
Yeah. The tone has definitely shifted on that.
It's almost the first part of the show, even before the K Marco, was all Steve. Like, it was big Steve weird moments.
Yes.
Because there's also the Steve's rattled about he thinks the Minifans have found him out. This one's a bit longer, but I can play it because it's so funny.
I get it.
Nothing like a red snapper.
Why didn't you drive up there this weekend? You got nothing else to do. Grab a couple of red snappers. Why didn't you?
Oh, I see where this is going.
What?
What do you mean? Just asking you a question. Where's what going?
I was at a Red Sox game this weekend.
Oh, you were? How would I know that?
I don't know.
What do you fucking think? What the fuck are you talking about?
Traitor!
Get the hell out of here! I dropped a foul ball, and my immediate thought was,
"Oh, did you?
Those two fuckers? Yeah, that's right. Those two fuckers are going to come up with some video of it."
What does it have to do with red snappers?
Oh, yeah, I'll really razz you for that, Steve. How did you not catch that?
What does it have to do with red snappers? How did you? You
said this weekend.
You're amazing to me. How do you go from? How do you go from that to? Oh, I know your game now.
Oh, that's it. Oh, you've done it now.
How does
you said? Why didn't you drive up this weekend?
Right, yeah. Well, you seemed like you were fucking horny for those red hot dogs on Friday. I don't know. Why did you get in your car and drive the hour and a half to get to where you can get them?
I mean, I'm not so horny for them that I'm going to drive all the way up through Boston traffic.
You couldn't go Saturday morning as opposed to going to the fucking Red Sox game? Who'd you go with?
My mother.
Ball game? I can't. I'm trying to think. I can't do it. I'm trying to think of a joke to Mike. Why'd you bring your mom?
She brought me, actually.
Oh, was it your birthday?
No.
She just wanted to take you to the Red Sox game?
Yeah. My stepdad's a huge fan.
So 3 of you went?
Yep.
So why'd you say your mom took you then?
Because she's the one who bought the tickets.
Okay. Did you guys have fun? America's greatest ballpark?
Yeah, we won. It was great.
Good.
Loved it. All-American pastime.
I like the idea that I would somehow obtain footage.
By the way, DC's already won. DC's already got his segment for the week. We're done. What were you saying?
Like the idea that I would obtain footage of Steve dropping a foul ball and be like, "What an idiot!"
So what happened? There was an actual foul ball.
Yes.
And you just dropped it?
Or maybe it was one of the players was like tossing it out into the audience, and it came right for me, just like maybe 3 or 4 feet to the left.
So I
went for it. I went for the grab.
I mean, that's a lie. You put that on your lie list, right?
Yeah, that was like Steve saying he caught a missed foul ball, but then I think I wrote he missed a short underhand toss into the audience. He calls it an audience too.
The audience. I mean, is the best. They riffed on that for a good half hour before they even got into K Marco. And I do want to point out, I mean, like the whole thing's a lie, though, BA. Like if we're really going to break this down, like when the players do that, they don't toss them to 32-year-old 6'3" grown men.
Yeah.
Either he stole it from a kid or it's a lie.
Yeah, it's like you think that, and so these clips 8:20, 17, 20, 18 minutes. We're not even 20 minutes into the episode.
20 minutes in. Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, that was I remember listening to that. I'm like, this guy calls like fans or whatever you call it an audience. He's saying he missed a foul ball, then it ends up being like a light toss.
A light toss from a player. He goes, I think a player or something. Like, who was it? I think he clearly made up the whole foul ball thing because to distract from going to the game. I don't know. No, or from talking about his mom and stepdad. I think that's what it was.
As soon as he says, my mom, and then you can almost hear like, is Kirk gonna go there? Are we gonna talk family?
And then Kirk said he was gonna make a joke, and he decided not to.
Mm-hmm.
You hear it in that clip. Yeah,
it's like one of those like, oh, can you imagine right now if I shit all over you without actually doing it?
Yep.
So yeah, once again, proof Steve is a robot or an alien. Calling it's just fans and audience.
Well,
So Mike says it in the episode, but I think this is Mike's best episode, and later on you'll see.
Yeah, agreed.
But Mike says in the episode after the car crash, it's like, oh yeah, Steve does a lot of car crash moments, but then Mike says, but he also has a lot of quirky moments where they like aunts versus aunts.
It was the week before. Aunts versus aunts was the week before.
And you have two things today: the foul ball and the did he come in second in the red snapper gate that were big storylines.
Yep. So it was that they riffed on that for 20 minutes. That's a great part of the show. If you guys are re-listening, that it's hilarious. And then BA and Danny, they get into K Marco. So it's actually kind of interesting listening to this because this is the first time that he ever talks about K Marco and really kind of goes at him. This is their first big controversy. And then, he was just at the Barstool Awards and he gave the speech where he shit all over K Marco. So it's like funny we're doing these episodes and there's still storylines that are still fucking kind of going and weaving their way through. And then to hear this episode, guys, and after the way that all these people now are talking about K Marco, now that like Penn is sold and that stock has gone through, I think some of the employees that hated him as well are not as afraid to say things because like he's obviously not coming back. He's not going to be a big deal there at Barstool.
Kirk opened the floodgates.
Kirk opened the floodgates, and you hear how much of like sometimes Kirk can be sensitive in some things where he thinks people are attacking him or he takes things too personal, I guess, in some aspects. He was just not wrong on this at all. Like K Marco was an absolute dickhead about the whole thing.
Yeah, it was wild. Like it was about the Dice Clay interview, and then Steve wanted to blog it, and then Steve inside, or I don't even think it was the headline. I think inside the blog it said Dice Clay says Michael Jackson is innocent, and then I think that Cunt Marco. This was before Cunt Marco, like the Kirk coined the term, but it was like Steve's like, what did I do wrong? And he's like, you know what you did.
You know what you did. Yeah.
But it's crazy how many people nowadays like are coming out of the woodwork. Like, oh, it's like a Me Too movement about K Marco.
Yes, where about K Marco.
Yeah, Kirk started it. It's I
wish the Rigo Bosco run-in was referenced, and then Brandon Walker brought it up last week. I mean, there were a lot of people that have had issues with him, and they just didn't. The Chicago guys, they just didn't say anything at the time, or at least except maybe
Jeff D'Lo.
So like, who's like a really nice guy. Like, I mean, just one of those things you can tell. He's obviously just a complete prick. K Marco.
Well, it's funny because K Marco. This wasn't the first time we heard. K Marco is another guy that was referenced for the first time as well.
Rico
dialogue's getting edited and certain
no doubt.
pictures getting taken out a lot more frequently
sure.
since the Francis thing. Rico Bosco, I don't know if this lines up with the Francis thing, if it was before or after.
Who's that?
Rico Bosco.
I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, he's been around.
Okay.
But he had like publishing powers taken away from without any announcement. No one said anything to him, and he went off on K. Marco about a similar type of thing. So it's been kind of an issue for a couple people, I guess.
Okay, well there you go. Well, me and Rico Bosco, my buddy,
Yes.
enlarge my crew.
It's so funny. He doesn't even know.
It's so
him, man.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he takes a lot of shots at Barstool on this. You know, this is after he had gotten to he was almost fired after the Albright situation, which was a couple of months before this, I think. So he's mad at Portnoy, he's mad at Barstool, he's really going at Barstool on this. You know, he called it Huffstool, I think, a couple of times this episode. You know.
Yeah. He complains a few times that he doesn't get a new promotion. He's like, it was that whole thing. We don't ask for promotion. We don't get it. Like, so this is when at this probably the very low moment with Barstool, the lowest moment.
Yeah,
or maybe it got a little bit lower, or probably
when he gave the codes.
Yeah,
when he gave the codes. When he gave the codes, that was the lowest.
That was the
moment.
lowest.
That was
moment.
the.
This is where it started. It started going downhill a bit.
Yeah, you know when he's taking shots at Portnoy, he's not happy. I mean, he's
exactly,
his buddy, and he says he flat out says Portnoy's not going to give a shit about. He doesn't give a shit about us, so he's not going to do anything about this. Talking about the K. Marco situation, and basically just writes him off. You know, so you can tell. Yeah, I think BA's right. This was a low moment for that relationship, but.
Yeah, and now
it's all been turned around since. He's going
to do survive. He's flying to Chicago, and he's going to be in a room with all these guys for like 5 days. You know,
it's
Is
funny.
nuts.
Oh, sorry.
I can't wait to watch. It's just crazy to think about. I don't know if you watched any of the Most Dangerous Game thing. It's actually really well produced, but just imagining Kirk.
Yeah, Portnoy says that's over
drama. With. Yeah, I heard, but there's just so much drama to it which obviously Kirk loves drama and thrives. But I think he likes the competitive aspect of it, but it's so out of character for him in a way, like to do a show like that, which I think is fascinating, and he's probably going to win. So get ready.
I think he has a good chance for that because he's not. I don't think he'd be the number one target. I think he could kind of go under the radar, and he could play games with multiple people there. You know, like he could, and I don't think he's afraid to backstab anyone.
Yes, that's how you win that game. Yeah, that's how you win that game. I mean, that is how you win that game. But let's get back onto this episode. So it's crazy to hear him talk about Barstool, his situation. You know how Steve was almost fired a couple months before. Do you guys get the sense that until Cullinane comes in, like Kirk is still taking little shots at Mike, and Mike's just not overly like comfortable? Like they're still doing the gambling picks. Mike's doing his lock of the week still. They have that sponsor that me and Danny, we talked about a couple episodes before. And Mike just does it. And Kirk takes a couple of digs in the beginning of this episode where he's like, oh yeah, Mike, please, don't work too hard. Get off the ganja. I think he says like once or twice. In the
ad read for the pills right before those guys come in. Mike, you look like shit. You should take those pills. Oh, you're really contributing a lot. I mean, he's shitting all over him. And Mike is not happy with it. I mean, you can tell he's taking it personally.
You could tell.
That's a good point, Danny. In the first ad read too, the Simply Safe one, he goes, "Let's shoot Mike and see how fast Simply Safe could come or respond."
So this is definitely one of those episodes that I call it like there's time marks in now that you're re-listening where it's like, pre-YouTube, pre-phone calls, right? And I think pre-fencing Mike. There's pre-fencing Mike and then there's after fencing Mike because it's two totally different people. It's
plus I think Mike just got full time or he just got the job at this moment. And because like even Kirk says at one point, okay, so what are you doing? And then Mike's like, oh, I have an easy day, kind of joking. And then I think it's near the end of the episode, but I think Kirk at that point is a little bit exhausted with the episode, so he doesn't go into him too much. But you could tell he's like, "You're not doing anything." Like,
you could tell Kirk's already you're an employee now, and he's getting annoyed that Mike doesn't do anything other than just go into the show and whatever. That Mike's not contributing more behind the scenes for sure.
I almost forgot what a big deal that became, and I think you're right too, BA. Everyone was rattled by the Kelleher experience. So that the third part of the show, once again, 3 shows in one, like we talked about, that third segment, once Kelleher's gone, they don't know what they're just kind of playing sound. They're trying to still do a show and everyone's just so discombobulated. Well, they're like, what did we just witness?
it's so funny because like after we're going ahead a little bit, but after the Kelleher episode, like Steve starts playing like political sound of Kamala
Political
Harris.
sounds. Yeah, it's so crazy.
Like, what the fuck? Kamala Harris.
So
Kamala Harris.
So hold on, it's funny, guys. It's great to be that you said that because I was like, hold on, the episode doesn't end when Rich leaves. Like I forgot that.
It was like 40 minutes.
40 minutes more. Yeah, if they did that now, the episode would have been all right, guys. See you Monday. You know what I mean? Like that episode would have just ended. There would have been nothing more after that. After Kelleher left.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I think they didn't want to all leave. I think Kirk didn't want like everyone to leave together with Kelleher because Kelleher would have been weird about that. So
yes,
you don't say. Yeah. He's Kelleher's an odd guy, man. I remember him in the Discord, and he was actually the first guy that started doing the voice chats in the Discord. Like, so that was kind of something. But also, like eventually he's thinking MHB has a hit on him, like has a hit on him. And it's like, I remember telling him like, man, if you actually think this is real, then I don't think I could talk to you too much anymore. Cause
you're crazy. Like, you're crazy. So it's funny you bring up Discord because we are jumping ahead a little bit. We're going to tail it back, but I do want to bring this point up because he said it. Cullinane talks about, the Discord being crazy one night because of the Andrew Dice Clay interview that like 100 people were in Discord discussing. And you could tell this is when, we're going to get into Rich, but I was fascinated by Dave this episode. And especially with what's happening with him now, because you could tell this is when Cullinane's in all the chats. He's popping. Oh, yeah. He's loving being a character. He's the wacky sales guy. Like he's loving the Twitter love. He definitely was dashed the show behind closed doors on chats. Like that happens. All right. I love the guy, but he did. And you could tell this is when he was like in the mix with the rest of just like the Minifans.
He was every morning in the Discord. He would be in there at like 6 a.m. and it would be like an Ask AMA Cullinane. Like everyone was like, "Oh, Cullinane, what do you think about this?" And he's answering the questions and like. He was, so 6 a.m. AMA with Dave Cullinane. So I guess he was waking up at 6 a.m. and doing nothing even back then in 2019.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Well,
yeah, Danny, what did you...
Yeah, Steve even brought up monetizing the Discord. Did you hear that?
Yes. Yeah. He's like, how much can we charge these people? I think is what he actually said.
And Kirk is like, come on, we have to go there. Then Cullinane's like, we'll sell hundreds of T-shirts with the Discord on it. And
with the Discord, No, you won't.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, no, you won't. That's crazy that they've never gotten like a big that's one thing I feel has been lacking for the show forever. If we're being honest, is merch. I just feel like he has a loyal fan base. Like he sells out 3,000, 2,500 seat arenas. Those people will buy T-shirts. Like they'll buy a good shirt.
They should do like a once a month, like it's like a shirt gets dropped once a month and it's never released again, and it's kind of like a fan club,
a vintage,
thing. Vintage, and everything's vintage. So like, because then those 3,000 people or whatever they are they're gonna like, I need make it a collector's item as opposed to
very very true. But so it's funny to hear them talking about monetizing things, talking sales. All right, so let's get into the part of like what BA loves. This is what we're here for. The Rich Kelleher, and I want to say Dave Cullinane experience because Dave was just as funny. I'm sorry, this episode, like Dave had some good moments. Yeah, Dave had some great moments. So, all right, the first thing is they're fighting over, and this is what's crazy about what's going on right now. They're fighting over the Kirk Minahan Instagram account. And Dave is in charge of the Instagram account at this time. So for the people listening to the show now, I mean, holy shit, right? Dave literally lost his job because BA called him out for not dropping any Instagram content for 3 months on Mike and the Minifans. So it's crazy that Dave's in charge of it. And Dave worked harder then than he does now. His wife was delivering Chase and he was trying to do stuff for the Kirk Minahan show in the waiting room. It's fucking crazy.
Do you want an intro to Rich Kelleher?
Yes.
I know.
This guy. So first of all, you two were arguing out. Were you guys arguing out there? Dave?
Oh, you're screaming at each other.
Screaming's dramatic, but yes, we were arguing.
Okay. Dave always says. Dave's big thing is always like,
don't call me dramatic. Let's not. Come on. Don't call me dramatic.
Jesus.
Tension is
Jesus
Christ.
Jesus Christ.
This is the energy.
I'm uncomfortable
Like,
here.
Yeah, this is the energy.
So what is going on? Explain to me. So Dave, you run the Kirk Minahan Instagram account, correct?
Correct.
Still,
yes.
Did you ever lose control of that?
Never.
You ever heard of Occam's razor? The simplest solution probably is. So back in your EEI days, you would have looked at Curtis and said, "Did you read it right?"
Right.
But I know Steve, smart guy in Ivy League, all that.
I don't think
You
he's any
read
Ivy League. Hold on. I don't think he's any Ivy League.
Let's correct that first.
History. I could be wrong.
What was it? Brown? Where'd you go?
You went to Red Snapper University.
That's right.
Go ahead.
You read on air that I have control of the Minifan account. And the other thing that was just unfucking believable, which Kirk, again, you're a Team Kelleher guy, I'm Team Minahan. I mean, obviously.
I'm starting to waver, but yeah.
Hold on.
Let's not,
you guys,
let's not upset him.
That's not a compliment to me either.
Wait. We talked about Albright. Like,
What's in that? First of all, what's in that bag? That's what makes me nervous.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. Look how
Steve from Providence thinks I'm going to come in here and shoot up the studio.
Okay,
it's not fun to joke about yet, but all right.
I mean, and it gets crazier and crazier. I mean, you're right. This is an unbelievable re-listen because I hadn't re-listened before today since the first time. He's certifiably nuts. Like he just is. Like I hope he's definitely going to re-listen to this because he loves hearing his name and stuff. So, but like especially here now, I get he's nervous, right? He's like the first guy to go in, right? Or did DEC already go in?
I think MHB went in at the start.
At the start, okay, but he was auditioning.
Yeah,
but he was like auditioning. Yeah, he was auditioning. Like I would say, Kelleher's the first like fan that was like a wacky side character. Like, hey, why don't you come in and hash this out with Dave? Like, kind of what they do now all the time. So I get being nervous. I get, that. But yeah, I mean, how much Adderall was he on? Like his brain was just. It was. Yeah.
They said he had a coffee and Red Bull.
And Red Bull. Yeah, like he was zonked out, man. So Danny, what jumped out at you like that initial foray?
So, and I don't know if to jump ahead a little bit to our usual segment about where were you when you were listening. I feel like that's somewhat relevant here because I remember I was traveling it's a boring story, but I was traveling for a business trip. And it was one of these things where my flight kept getting delayed. I was supposed to go from New York to Denver. I was supposed to go visit a customer. I pretty much had nowhere to go. So it was one of these deals where I ended up in the airport. I was in LaGuardia for like 12 hours. And I remember re-listening to this in the airport at least twice. So like the day of, because I was so fucking confused as to what was happening at first. I was like, who is Rich Kelleher? I didn't really know who Dave was at this point either. It was just the whole thing. I remember at the time just being, I was mesmerized. It wasn't a bad thing. But I was so confused. I'm like, who is this guy? How is he so crazy? How do they already kind of know who he is? And even that, like, even listening back, I listened to the Kelleher part or the in-studio part.
It still makes no sense.
It still makes no sense. And even knowing what I know now, there's still a lot that is not clear in my mind as to what happened over that, hour and a half.
Yeah, it's very weird. Like it's like he's mad about Dave talking to DEC DEC saying that he's an aggressive and he's like misrepresenting him, but then goes, I am aggressive.
Yeah. He pulled the Dave Cullinane where he was told he was wrong and he agreed. Like he just right away.
He's mad about it. And it's like, well, you are aggressive, right? Well, yeah.
It was so funny when he has his bag and it's all like printouts of screenshots.
He screenshotted text messages. He printed it out. Like who does that? Rich, who does that?
It's insane. It was insane. Like listening to it back, it's like this guy. Like it was so funny, but it's also it wasn't because Kelleher. It's like you're laughing at Kelleher, and then Mike making fun of Kelleher is probably his Goldilocks zone, like.
Well, all right. So could we talk about that, BA? When Dave enters the room, Kirk even looks at Mike and goes, "Wow, you're just so happy right now." Yeah. Like, I think it's getting Cullinane there. Mike feels more comfortable being able to goof on Cullinane and he can goof on someone because usually it's Steve and Kirk goofing on him.
Right.
Yeah, because Steve even like later on in the episode is like making fun of him because he didn't know the Supreme Court justice's number, and it's like is that really, I guess I'm Canadian, so I wouldn't know the number, but is that really like the craziest thing not to know if it's 7 or 9, you know? Like maybe it is, I don't know. But it's like, yeah, you could tell he goes from being like the bottom to being like an alpha when Kelleher walks.
Kelleher in there. Yep, VA nailed it. Yeah, the energy changed from Mike when they walked in the room, and like Mike starts giggling, he starts talking naturally. It was great. You're right. What did you think there, BA? Do you have a clip that you want to play?
This is just one of the first funny Mike moments.
But don't.
So let me fucking talk.
Whatever you told DEC, don't lie about it.
Let me fucking talk. I told DEC you were aggressive and should be wary of you.
I have everything. All right here, buddy.
That is the last voice any of us will ever hear.
It's all right here.
That's great. Great line.
Oh man! And how about Cullinane? Let me fucking talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Kelleher Kelleher was like he wasn't making any sense. He wasn't like he would ramble, and then it was just funny poking fun at him, and then you're like, what the fuck? It's all about I think it was about the Minifan Instagram. It wasn't even about the KMS Instagram.
Exactly.
Like,
yep.
Even more
ridiculous. I think he said fuck DEC like 4 times. Hey, he talked directly to Steve from Providence, like he's looking in the camera, and it's like what? Like Kirk goes, "This is audio." You might another great Mike line. Yeah, I think he goes, you know. He goes, you know, Steve. All right, go ahead, play it. Yeah, play that.
This is my favorite part of the whole show.
It means a lot to me. It means a lot. The last 7 months when you were off air, honest to God, was awful. And the fact that this is back, the fact that this is fun, the fact that Steve from Providence has a new lease on life that he can go after me, which he did say. Did you?
Not really ahead in mind. The answer to your question will be no. I did not see anything between you two.
He said that it looks like that my pubic hair is covered with Cheeto dust because I'm a redhead. And in my video, I told him that I used manscaped.com/Kirk and got 20% off, and I'm very happy down there. So, Steve,
always selling this guy.
Steve, listen. You listening, Steve from Providence? Look, I thought you were going to come to Red 13 Studios. You said you wanted to punch me in the face. Start a GoFundMe. $5,000.
What is that?
If you get if the Minifans can contribute $5,000, I will let you hit me in the face at Red 13 Studios whenever you want. Get to $5,000.
Just do it the day when I'm not here. It's fine.
Do you see Steve from Providence in the room with us now?
I mean, that got a big laugh from Kirk.
I remember.
Oh my God.
I don't remember where I was when I heard that line, but I remember the first time I heard that, and I was fucking pissing my pants laughing.
Yeah, it's a great Mike. The way Mike does it too, his delivery is great. He whispers it to him as well. Yeah. Oh my fucking God, dude. Yeah. So BA, you were in the Discord and stuff back then. Like, was there a real beef with like Steve from Providence or Rich from Kelleher? Because Steve from Providence is a goof.
I think so that's when Steve from Providence was a huge Kemp, huge fan. He was like the king of the Minifans. I remember the Minifans had this like exclusive private chat, and he's like, do you want to join it? But I don't know if you're a Rich Kelleher guy or not. So I don't think he ever really liked them. But Steve probably made fun of him a lot, and Kelleher's taking it more seriously. But Kelleher's obviously at this point, you would say now, he's like really aggressive. He wants to use this to
So BA, let's talk about that. Great point. It's something I got, Danny. I don't know if you noticed too. He kept saying he wanted to just do to help the show. It wasn't for money. It wasn't for I don't want to be on air. I want to be behind the scenes. And then he pitches to Cullinane to do like a Rough and Rowdy and have a rivalry with Cullinane, almost like a WWE script. And it's like, and then he compares himself to Kirk working weekends at EEI, which Cullinane goes through. Dave even says, like, you comparing yourself to like Kirk when he started out in the business? Like, I thought you didn't want to be on air. So like Rich definitely was either lying to himself or lying to them. Like, he wanted to be part of content. He thought he was going to get a gig at Barstool, 100%.
Yeah, and then I'll set this up, but him thinking like Cullinane and him could be like a Smitty versus Nate. I think this is one of the more crazy things where he was very like nuts. I'll play it.
My point was that Smitty and Nate together make great content. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
The whole poker stuff
I
in
would
Vegas, that was amazing. But
we're way. I know if we started off track. There's no track. I would love to find a track right now and have a train run over me.
Okay, you know what?
He hypnotized me. I was like, yeah, I agree. You're right.
The listeners could listen to 98.5 or WEI right now. I think they're going to listen to this.
I'm concerned about that, Rich. That's not my concern. My concern
you're
is
welcome, Stephen Shea, for the downloads. You're welcome, Erica.
Ooh, how bad is that?
But why do you think Why do you think you are the reason for getting downloads? Kirk invited you in. He's making something of you.
Am I the reason? Of course he is. It's part of the game, baby. Play with me. You give me nothing.
Danny, you got to jump in. You got to jump in here, Danny. I fucking can't.
It's just so insane. The thing is, he's owning it there, and I think that's where Kelleher's. I think some of the nerves are gone.
A little. Yeah,
the nerves are at least have subsided a little bit. I mean, when he starts doing the play with me, I mean, the voices, this guy, he's a trip. So I don't know how much you guys have interacted. I know BA, you mentioned you had chatted with him back in the day.
Yeah, definitely back in the day a decent amount, and then like not so much anymore.
We actually, Rich he's crazy, but he is a very nice guy. He and I actually chatted. I remember we actually had a phone call where we thought there was a chance to potentially do some business together, which is not really relevant to this, but it is kind of funny to think back on.
That's actually very funny.
Because he'd approached me. He's definitely, I mean, like Mike said, always selling. I mean, he was always looking for different opportunities. He reached out to me like, hey, I see you do this. Like, maybe we could connect on something. And so we had a couple phone calls. Nothing really materialized from it, but I did chat with him a little bit about completely non-Minifan stuff. He sent me a nice handwritten note saying, thank you for your time. Very classy, but I actually reached out to him today to see if he had any comments, but he didn't get back to me.
I think him now, he's like, I think he's like, he looks back and is like, yeah, I was a little bit fucked up during that time. And he was a little bit, he went too hard. So I think he's reflected a bit. But at that time where he's like, oh, me and Dave, we could play rock, paper, scissors. He's like, we could play rock, paper, scissors and do that. And I thought that was like, he was very delusional back then to think, like this feud would translate. It wouldn't translate more to like a theme on the show, where
for a week or something.
Yeah, right. Or like he could be a recurring character, but to think like, oh, I'm going to use this and become like Rich Kelleher. It was also funny. There was the first time the stickers, the infamous stickers. He pulls it out of the bag,
and Kirk complimented him.
It's like, oh, that's very nice, and it was funny to see that. Where
Kirk liked the stickers.
So for the people, all right, BA, let's get into that. Great fucking transition, buddy. So for the people that maybe I think a lot of people that listen to this are hopefully newer listeners that they're using this to maybe help them, get names and characters and things like that, or for the people who just forgot. BA, can you get into the stickers thing and why Kelleher was literally like, he's never talked about anymore. Kirk basically banned him. It got crazy there for a minute. And I know I think he went away. Like, I think he had real issues, over this whole world. So like, I don't want to pile on a guy when stuff like that happens either. Like, I don't want to be that guy. So hopefully he is better now. But yeah, you were in the worlds, you were in the Discord. Break down the sticker gate for the KMS listeners.
So it's kind of weird. So Kelleher had like his own propaganda, like he made a own like propaganda team. And it's funny, Blind Mike Sneakers was an original member of that team, and they had
my god.
They had a falling out. Yeah, I forget what Sneakers' name was, but they had a falling out, but Sneakers came up with an idea to have signs at the vigil, and Kelleher used that idea and I think didn't credit Sneakers, and they had a falling out. But then
I love it. I love that, BA. That is a great inside info. That's amazing. Yeah, thank you.
I forget what his name was. KMS Shirts or something.
All right. Like hopefully Sneakers will hear this and let us know what his original name was. Yeah. But go ahead, BA.
So then Kelleher had this old propaganda team. He was like trying to market the show, guerrilla marketing. So then I guess he came up with the stickers. But so he would send out a lot of stickers. But then I think he started charging them or saying, "Hey, send me the money so I could fund the costs."
Yes,
And that's when Kirk was like, "Stop doing this." And then I think he said he's going to keep doing this. And then they had a phone call. I think he even calls into the show at a later episode. And it was just like, I don't think Kelleher understood where it's like, he can't be selling a Kirk Minahan branded thing like on as a third party. Because the first thing was stickers around the world. So he would send stickers to people, and he wanted us to, like, he wanted me to go to like a landmark in Toronto, take a picture of the Kirk Minahan sticker,
and post it and post on Instagram, which is not, by the way, not a terrible idea to grow the Instagram.
Not a terrible idea, but it was. But then it got into the charging of stickers, and then I think he would say, "Oh, I wasn't trying to make money. I just was trying to cover the costs for people that
that's what his excuse." But you can't do that.
Yeah. So and then and regardless if he was malicious or not, Kirk was like, "Stop doing this. Like, you can't be saying you can't be charging money for this. If you want to do it, do it. But if it..." And then he like that's when he kind of had a spiral, and then he was like really, and then him and MHB, DC, all these guys were going at it. And then there was a day in the Discord where I remember I was a moderator in there, and Kelleher is saying MHB has a hit out on me, and he's spamming it. And I was like never a guy to block anyone. It was like I was the dirty mod. You could go whatever. And I remember messaging him. I'm like, you have to stop saying this. Like, you can't, like, if you think it's a joke, go ahead. But if you think it's true, then I'm gonna have to like block you because you need some time. You need some time on your own. And then he goes, BA, it's true. He has a hit on me. And I was like, man, you need it. I think you should take a week off. So we actually suspended him from there because it was like, it was too much. It was like, you can't, like, no one's this isn't the fucking Goodfellas, you know?
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think you hear, Danny, I'll let you go next, but I do think you hear it that like he's like she talks about being sober 7 months. So I hope that lasted as well too. I just feel like he's just, man, he's really all over the place. Like he's thinking some wild stuff this time. What caught your eye there, Danny?
I think it was the fact that. Sorry, I just totally spaced for a second, Dave. I apologize. I just got a text I had to respond to. Sorry about that.
No problem. That's all right.
What was the question again?
So, like,
I'm sorry.
How manic he was, the way that he's talking, like even that story there by BA. Your brain froze right there, Danny.
Can we edit this out? Like Steve had to take cut sound.
I can't edit
Steve cut sound from this.
No, we're not editing this out at all, Danny. No, so just basically like Rich's mindset, like when you're listening to this episode, what are you thinking like about where he is? Like, I'm thinking this kid needs to go seek professional help. Like, I don't think it's a bit.
I thought the same thing. And it was one, and I heard someone, I don't remember if it was UBA at some point, we were chatting like weeks ago about this episode, or somebody brought it up, and they were talking about how everyone kind of used Kelleher. I don't really think that was the case. I really do think he totally brought this upon himself. And I think he probably at the time thought he did a good job. And he obviously did. He created entertainment. It may not have been what he was looking to do. But it certainly made for an amazing episode. And he was definitely a character pretty significantly for a while, as, you know, BA started to get into there. But I remember feeling a little bit bad for him at the time.
Agreed.
Listening.
Yes.
I was kind of like,
yes.
And again, I don't think anybody, I mean, he was there in studio himself. It wasn't like, you know, a Howard Stern bit where they're, you know, shitting on somebody who doesn't know any better. I mean, this was a guy that said, hey, I want to come in, and I'm arguing with Dave. And he obviously was able to, you know, hold his own at some level, but just going in so many different directions. And I took note of the fact that he had said he had hit rock bottom, and Kirk was a big part of, you know, in the interview with the Running Man and everything, was a big part of him getting sober. And even Chris Curtis got brought into that part of it. So I remember thinking, okay, it sounds like this guy's, you know, on the right track as far as that stuff is concerned, but I can't imagine this studio appearance is going to do much for his mental health either. I remember thinking that at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, even re-listening today, I felt a little bad in there. Like, and actually knowing how it ended with him, where he's not well liked, he's not like, I thought listening, I'm like, oh man, like, holy shit, like this kid actually had a shot to be like a third chair for every a couple of weeks or something if he had played his cards right. But he went so hard into the world that I think it really did become his life, which, is not great. Not.
I think he did, but you still see him around on Twitter now and again. I mean, it seems like he seems to be doing okay, based on what little interaction I've seen. But at one point, they talked about how this guy's going to be a part of the world all in forever. And I think you're right.
Kirk called him family. He said he adopted him.
He burned brightly and burned out, I think is unfortunately what happened for him. But.
Well, let's hope our producer John gets him on Where Are They Now. I think a Rich Kelleher Where Are They Now episode would actually be pretty good. I think that would be a great candidate.
I agree.
So let's hope John can do that.
I think Kelleher has a good heart by this clip.
I told him to shut the fuck up, respectfully.
Right.
And then he's got that I apparently was the source for DEC on the Minifan show. All I did was tell him he's aggressive and to be wary of him.
What's the issue with that?
And then he's like, well, he almost gave him the Instagram password. Dummy, I was trying to get.
Oh, he's looking at the camera now.
No, I'm not. I didn't even see it.
Mark my words.
I was trying to help.
What are people?
When
you were
your
trying
wife
to
was
help
in labor. Did I or did I not?
Yes.
Offer to either bring food or
yes, I thought that was very strange. But I said,
I mean, it is a great clip, BA. It's unbelievable. I think he'd maybe met Dave, never met him before, had been internet friends with him for 2 weeks, and he's like, "You want me to stop by the hospital and bring you and your?" I mean, that's crazy.
I think it wraps him up in a nutshell where I think his heart was in the right place.
Yes.
But then he got I think the clout got to him, and and to be honest, it's happened to the best of us. Like, I know for sure back in the day, I would say stuff that just to get a rise or whatever.
Yep.
I'd be fucked up and I would just go on rants that were sometimes incoherent, or sometimes you think, oh, I'll get this. I'll start if I do this. I'll
my
get
notifications will. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's like you have to think, and I think with reflection, you're like, you know what, this is. If you're treating it as this is all fun and games, or we're having a good time, we're just shooting the show with the boys. It's a lot better mentality than maybe I'll get something out of this, or I'll get famous, or this could be a career. It's not going to happen, or unless you look like Chris Clemmer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kelleher had the look. He's a weird guy with a weird brain.
That's
like I said,
true.
if he had played his cards right, I do think that now looking at what the show has done, Clemmer's signed to Barstool. Kirk's probably going to hire a Minifan as his producer. So that's like two people that from Kirk's world that, would have gotten jobs at Barstool just by being around the show. So he wasn't completely off the reservation to think that looking back on it. Danny, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Yes, sorry, I have a question for Danny. Danny, we've hung out one time, correct?
Yes.
In Portland, Maine. So,
true.
But we had a great time. We're buds. We interact. We have this little show together. You just had a son. You just had Oliver. If I had reached out to you, Danny, and said, "Hey, Danny, I'm going to stop. I'm in Bill Rica right now. All right, for some reason. Do you and your wife want Chipotle? You want me to bring you Chipotle while you're at the hospital?" And be honest here, Danny, what would your reaction have been? And we know each other. David and Rich had never met.
I was thinking about this as well, because it does change the tune when you realize this was their first time meeting in person, like you said.
Yeah, and
really
only interacting on the internet for a couple weeks.
It sounded like a lot in a couple weeks, but it's still, like you said, a very short period of time. It's definitely a strange move. I think you're right. It does show at his heart. Rich is a good guy, and he was genuinely caring about Dave. I don't think that was a bit.
Yep.
But at the same time, just odd. I mean, I have friends that are, like you said, we were, Ollie was born 2 months ago. My wife had a C-section, so she was in the hospital. We were all there for 5 days, basically. I think we had a couple visitors, like good friends that stopped by. And even then they didn't offer to bring food. Like, I don't know, but most of my friends didn't even offer to come, which is fine. Like, we didn't really want a bunch of visitors.
Yeah.
We got a few at the house after, but yeah. And I guess, if you offered it, Dave, in that situation, I I'd say I appreciate it, but I'd be like, yeah, that Daver is a little weirder than I realized.
That's what that got a little weird. Yeah, yeah.
Like
exactly.
what's going to be in the food?
I mean, it's when I heard that, and it's like you could tell he was disappointed that they all laughed when Dave was like, "That's strange." Like you actually could hear Rich. Like honestly, I think back to your point, Da, that I think he is a good person. Like he was like, "Oh," like he was a little hurt by that. I think.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like a lack of self-awareness, maybe, where it's like think about it. It's like maybe it's not the weirdest, like, okay, I'll see this guy, but then what are you gonna tell your wife that's like in labor, like, oh, I'm gonna meet up with fucking Rich Kelleher, he's bringing us some food, and she's like, who's Rich Kelleher? Oh, a guy that
my internet friend,
my internet friend from the Kirk Minahan show, where we're like, it's like to like just. That's where I think he lacked like self-awareness in those moments, you know.
Agreed. And then that was a great line by Cully, though. That was hilarious. Cullinane and him. Okay, so let's get into like the Cullinane aspect of it. Dave was hilarious in that, like, Kirk is like, okay, did you try to steal a sale from Rich? Okay, because that gets brought up, right? And Cullinane's like, no, we were working together. And then like Rich explains it, and Kirk goes, so Dave, you just wanted Rich to do the work, and then you get the credit. Dave's like, no, and then does the classic Cullinane where he goes, no. Well, yeah, I guess if the way you put it like that. I mean, it's like 4 years later, it's still the same fucking Cullinane. It was brilliant. It summed it up in a nutshell of how Dave operates. And then come to find out, 5 years later, BA, neither one of them sold a thing for the show.
No, I don't think so.
Right?
No,
but then going back to Cullinane, or with Cullinane, Kelleher could have been ahead of his time in a sense where he told Cullinane, it doesn't matter if you're going through stuff, don't let the Instagram suffer.
He's a great point, BA. Great point. Like it's so true. Like you gotta. What did he say? Just keep posting. JKP. Keep posting.
Just keep posting.
Just keep posting.
Kelleher looks vindicated. I think
a little bit. Yes,
he's a little vindicated in certain aspects. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the sales one, I don't think any of them were ever going to make a sale. When Kirk goes, so my two outside sales reps to the world is Rich Kelleher and Dave Cullinane.
Dave Cullinane. It's
well, then Kelleher said, "Hey, I'm going to get 5 sales before you get one." And
one.
I guess that's still potentially on the table, because if neither one of them, if Dave still hasn't got one yet, it's still fair game.
Oh my God. Yeah. So that part was brilliant. I mean, I do encourage everyone. I know we say this every episode, but this one was, I think, my favorite re-listen so far. Out of the episodes that we've done, BA, I'm kind of with you. This jumped up the rankings because there's just, you forget what happened in the show so much, and to rehear it, it's so relevant about what's going on right now with the Instagram, with Cullinane. It is so relevant with what's going on now. And you know, Kirk doing a casting couch for producers, and this being the first time he's letting like fans actually interact in the studio with him. So you're kind of getting like a taste of the future with this episode a little bit. So Danny, we haven't let you go much. What is the biggest thing that we haven't talked about, or that jumped out at you that we've missed so far?
I think looking at it, I had a couple of different notes here. I think the fact that I don't know. I think my mind's still blown by the fact that Kelleher was there and just doing the whole Kelleher thing. Like the fact that I still can't wrap my head around exactly what the argument was, I think is probably the part that I keep coming back to. And like, I'm like, am I just stupid, or
your mind's in a pretzel, Danny? Your mind's in a pretzel.
It still is. Like I had to go back and like I said, I re-listened to the middle part of this 2 more times today after, I think after re-listening several times back when this episode first came about. And that the whole Cullinane Kelleher relationship, I think, is just fascinating, because like you said, looking at it now, to see Dave in the studio interacting with Kirk, and some things just never changed. A lot of the same kind of themes there. And to think about this being, 2019, show's still kind of finding its way.
Yes.
And we're still like we said, still learning about, Steve and his lies. And we just knew so little back then. We know so much more now. yet it's still confusing as hell as far as whatever the fuck's happening in that episode.
Very true. So BA, I want to bring up, do you remember, and Danny, you might remember too, but I think BA, like I said, he's like the expert on this episode. So I'm hitting it off to him first. Do you remember what Kelleher was wearing? Can you describe to the people? Because this is pre-YouTube. Yeah. I remember seeing it on Periscope for like a little bit. Just a wild outfit. Do you remember it, BA?
I think he. So this is one. I wish this was the one where it could have. We had the video. Like I wish
we had the video. If it was on YouTube, yeah, agreed.
And I think this is one that I wish if they have the video in the archives, they should re-release it because I think it would be
great
like
idea.
Great re-release. But I remember I think he was wearing brown shoes. I think he was wearing like I forget what kind of pants, but I think he was wearing like a big sweater, a sweater. Or like,
I want to say like a fur coat. I remember it being like some sort of like fur coat. Like he looked like he looked like a ginger pimp, as I remember, like me when I first saw it, like when I saw the video, and like he's sitting on top. They talk about it. He keeps pushing over, and he's like in Dave's face, like an inch away. And like I'm shocked at I'll tell you what, I got to give Colony a lot of credit. I think I would have lost my cool. Like, don't take up my personal space, whether it's a bit or not. Like, yeah, relax, brother. You know, like, back off. So, and he stayed there for a while, like to the point where Kirk kept looking at Mike. Mike, you look very uncomfortable. Mike's like, yeah, this is crazy.
It's like a hostage situation. And my last clip I have kind of relates. Even though he had that fur coat, he also did something else.
I was uncomfortable.
Yeah, very uncomfortable.
At one point, he put that blanket on and like was red and sweaty and angry. It's just. Like, do you think he just got in his car and just drove away?
I actually asked the Red 13 people to make sure that he did drive away.
Did you really?
I saw that interaction. He's watching.
Did he?
We don't have confirmation yet, no. I legitimately was interested in searching his bag. I'm not...
Well, you waited like 45 minutes.
I know, I should have searched it much quicker.
Thanks. You weren't that interested.
Oh, man.
Holy fuck. If Cullinan could do this, this should be... a rerun on the YouTube network because I think this would do huge
numbers,
huge numbers, and to watch it, to the ability to actually watch this, would be like I think it would make it 10 times more funny because you would see. I would just love to see everyone's face interaction.
I remember thinking at the time, BA, and then re-listening to it today, guys. I swear to God, I went. Like this was an episode that this is why YouTube was created, because it's great that you're listening on audio, but to be able to, if you could see what they're describing, like would have been, I agree. If they have this in the archives, this would be a great like show drop. It'd be great.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it just, you could feel the craziness coming through in the audio, but yeah, I think to get that visual as well, would be absolutely huge. And it's funny you brought up the fur coat. I forgot about that. I always think of Rich Kelleher in the hot dog suit a couple weeks later.
See, that's right.
You're right, because now I'm remembering there was that picture. I think it was like a yellow, like a mustard coat too.
A mustard coat,
like
yeah. It was like an oversized, mustard fur coat. And I want to say BA had like white pants and brown shoes on.
And you got to think about it. Yeah, I know. I remember the brown shoes because Kirk goes like he has his shoes shined. He shaved. And he's like, I could see, I would love to see him waking up in the morning, shaving to come in here. Like, I'm going to work today.
So, like, I'm going to work today. Yeah.
But put my pimp coat on.
You got to think too. Like, that was the first week of football season, so it's still like hot outside, right?
Yeah,
it's still
around this time. It would be like it is today. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So BA and Danny. So BA, you haven't been in, but when you come down for the live show. You should go in as a third chair, by the way, while you're here that weekend. I want to throw that out. I want to throw that out there now. I think Kirk should definitely have you in. You know, you're killing it on the network. I think you do great on the show.
I'd be really nervous.
Well, me and Danny can tell you, it's pretty nerve-wracking.
If we can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, I agree. So. But Danny, so let's get into like when Rich walks in and you hear him say hi and shake his hand. Yes. And after my criticism of you, now everyone knows you don't talk to him. You just leave, and like I said, that's why I think him being the first one there was like, no one knew the rules. I don't think yet. So, Danny, did that jump out to you that you've been in studio now? Like,
absolutely, because I definitely had some secondhand anxiety there. I kind of cringed a little bit. I'm like, come on, Rich, you should know better. But you're totally right. How could he have known better? I mean, Kirk had made references about that in the past, like not really wanting that personal touch and that kind of thing. But yeah, not like now when you've got guys getting yelled at for saying howdy. Rich hadn't gone through that yet. So as soon as he mentioned that, like, oh man, I'm trying to shake your hand, and Kirk's like, no fucking way. I'm like, oh no, poor guy.
I don't think Kirk's a handshaker either, because I tried to shake his hand when I was drunk at what's it called, Gritty's, and I was like, Kirk was right, and then he looks at me like, he goes like this. He gave me a props. And then someone yells, "Oh, that's BA!" And then we had a back and forth. He called me.
He's not a specimen. That was a great back and forth. Yeah, he doesn't like to shake hands, and he only hugs in front of 20,000 people.
Yes. Yeah, and Danny, what I was gonna say too, it's like, and when he gets in there, Kirk even goes, because you could see him went for the handshake. Like, we obviously couldn't see, we were listening, because Kirk goes, "Hey, buddy," like you could tell right away, like annoyed that he was going for the handshake and even having to say hi to him. It was very, very funny. I thought that
he just had no choice. I mean,
he had no choice. Hey, buddy.
Like BA said, and like it was mentioned on the episode, the hostage situation just started from the first moment he walked in.
Yeah. There was a point where Kirk, I think Kelleher goes, "Well, I want Instagram to fail now," and then Kirk goes, "Well, you want my Instagram to fail? Get out of here! Get out of here!" And then I guess Kelleher doesn't leave, and then he's like, "We're gonna call security," and he's like, "No, I'm not leaving." And then Kirk goes, "Okay, apologize." And then I probably should have clipped that one. I forgot. But then Mike, I think Mike is like, he really played that security hand well.
It was a great line by Mike. Yes,
it was good.
I should have had that one too. Fuck. This one was tough.
He stood his ground.
Yeah, he was like, he did a little bit of an Andrew Augustus, like got in there and just didn't want to leave. Like he was
he was the opposite of Justin. Kirk told Justin to leave. Justin just got right up and left.
He was gone. Didn't even try to save it. Whereas Kelleher stuck around long enough for Kirk to say, "All right, fine, just apologize."
It was like it was such a roller coaster episode. It starts off like Steve weirdness, then goes to K Marco, then goes to this whole Kelleher thing. Then after, Steve's trying to play political stuff, and they're all like, "It's not working," and it's just it was just like
it was like me 15 minutes ago. Their minds are just all over the place, So what got cut, by the way? Because
that's what I wondered too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out, but I think it was something they were made. I think there was I don't know. See, it's something with Cullinane and a T-shirt, I think, and then they were probably making fun of him, and I think they were making fun. I don't know what they were making fun of him about, and then they cut it because they thought it was too aggressive. Because this wasn't live, right?
No, it wasn't live. And then also, too, remember, boys, Cullinane was going in, and he was sensitive already. He had gotten into like a big tiff with Kirk, and they even had a text exchange where it's like, he thought that Kirk was being too mean, like, at the time. Now, obviously, Dave was going through he had a kid being born. He admitted that he was a little sensitive afterwards. But, so maybe they thought that, all right, Dave already came in here complaining that we were too mean last time. We don't want to be mean again. Or my thought was, BA, that they mentioned one of the advertisers that Cullinane and Rich were like trying to go after. Maybe that they said their name. That was my thought as well.
Maybe it was that. I thought he said something about it. Sorry, BA. I thought he said something about an address too. I thought something maybe Kelleher actually said his address.
Said his address in Brighton. Yeah.
But I thought this cut was from like an episode prior. Like I thought they were saying that they was like they cut out something like from a previous episode, not from this one.
Well, Kirk tells Steve to cut something in this episode. I will say, and I thought he said something about when they come in the studio and when they leave. And if you listen, when Kelleher first start to hear him, it does sound like there's a little jump. So I think they might have just cut out the rustling and when they're sitting down, putting the microphone, headphones on, whatever. I think they might have cut a little bit there. obviously not a big deal, but I did think it was interesting because I think it got brought up at least twice. You might be right, BA. I mean, he may have been referencing another episode as well, but I was pretty sure he was asking him to do some cutting of this particular episode.
Well, and I do have one last thing in my notes and then, we can go around to our last things because we're a little over an hour now. I have one thing that we haven't talked about that's here that I found really interesting. Kirk mentions listening to DEC's weekly wrap-up show that he was doing at the time and saying how good it was and this and that, and then mentions to Steve, oh, did you listen? And Steve says no. And Kirk, you could actually hear him. He got a little angry in that, and it's kind of what the criticism of Dave was here at the end, that not listening to different stuff and getting sounds and reacting to it. So I found it interesting that even back then, Kirk listens to pretty much everything to see if there's anything interesting said that they can be then talked about on the show. And you could see a little annoyed with Steve that he hadn't listened to it.
Yeah, that was about the car crash. He's like, did you listen? And he goes, no. And he goes, oh, they have this Steve Robinson's car crash segment, because that would have been good to play on the show, right?
Yes,
the car crash moment or whatever. Because I remember that was really funny, the DEC recap, where it was like whatever Steve was saying, and it was like a big car crash. It was really
So and he did. He got on pretty good. You're right, David. It's a great point because he got on because he never used to get on Steve as much as I think he gets on Dave for stuff like that, because Steve didn't tend to, fuck that up as often. But yeah, he was definitely a little annoyed. And he's like, "What else are you doing? It's only 20 minutes or whatever, So it's that was funny that it went there, and yeah, good point. It would have been the perfect thing to be able to play a drop of.
Yeah. All right. So BA, let's kind of wrap this up. Is there anything that we missed? Is there anything else that really shined out to you? You being loving this episode so much. Anything with Rich part or now at the end that you caught that you think is, that you just want the people to make sure that they hone in on when they re-listen?
No, I think we did a good job. It's I would say an easy listen, even though it's like 2 hours and almost 3 hours.
It went by like that. You're right.
Listen. It's just because the whole time in the background they're trying to figure out what's going on with this fight, and they never really figure it out. And it's and then especially for a hardcore fan now to hear. This is the first time Rico Bosco was brought up. The first time K Marco was brought up. The first time Red Snapper was the Red Snapper second place was brought up. The first time the Steve said the foul ball in the audience. There was so much in this episode.
He's fighting with Barstool. He's fighting with Dave. He's fighting with Stephen Che. They pulled Stephen Che. Yeah. They pulled Stephen Che sound because Stephen Che was critical of Kirk's ad reads. So they played a Stephen Che ad read because he had a football podcast with Willie Colon. And this is after the whole Willie Colon incident in New York. So Kirk is kind of going at Barstool quite a bit too. So you're right. There's so many storylines on this, BA, that I thank you for really pushing us to do this, because I hadn't re-listened, and I would actually now put this in my top 5. Especially that it was such a good re-listen. It was such a good re-listen.
Especially that there's so much in it. And I think people are like, oh, I don't want to hear this stupid Rich Kelleher episode, but you can't think of it as a Rich Kelleher episode. You got to think of it as this is almost a framework to what the show is now,
Yes,
back
agreed.
in 2019, so.
Great point, BA.
Yeah.
And Kelleher is only 1/3 of the episode. I mean, you said,
that's so true.
So many other things going on.
It's
the
funny.
Shea stuff cracked me up.
Danny, it's funny you say that, man, because I was thinking, BA, I'll be honest with you. I think I had that mindset that I'm like, I don't want to fucking listen to Rich for 2.5 hours. I'm all set. You know what I mean? And you're re-listening. I was like, holy shit. He really is only in there for about 45 minutes. They do an hour before, they do 40 minutes after. So it is right, BA, to go back and re-listen. So I would encourage everyone. It's been my favorite re-listen out of the episodes that we've done so far. So BA, I want to thank you for coming on, producing, pushing us to do this, taking some time out of your Labor Day. I really hope that you get a chance to go in studio, dude. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in Saco. Danny, we getting a Danny and Bill Ricka sighting in Saco, or you have kids?
Unfortunately, that's family vacation week.
Danny.
Pre-planned, pre-scheduled. What can I say?
Hey, bring your kid to Saco, and we could hold them up like Mancock's kid.
I'd love nothing more. That actually be pretty hilarious.
Oliver would be the biggest star of the weekend. Hey, listen, Oliver might have a chance at producing after what we saw this last couple of weeks. Okay, everyone's got a shot.
He's about as qualified as some of the other guys.
All right, so listen, before we go, can I really quick? Is anyone talk to like? Let's be real. I didn't want to bring this up with John. John loves this shit. Why has not John thrown his name in there to give it a shot?
I don't think he wants to. I don't think he can move. I don't think he has. I don't think he is in the position to be like, okay, we're moving for this job. Maybe I don't know.
Okay.
I don't want to even speak about his moving. I guess I already did, but I think. But he's acting like, oh, I wouldn't even do this job.
Yeah, which is crazy. PA.
I told him, I was like, if you were, I get it's too far, right? His whole family lives there. I don't think he would move for the job, but if he was around, he would be in that studio for sure. Like,
come on,
for sure.
And then like PA, like let's not act like John and you didn't start doing this. Montante's been open about it. He started Montante's World for like an opportunity to try to get bigger. Like if you're honest about it, it's okay to be a clout chaser. I know we make fun, but like it is what it is.
When we started Mincel Intel, our goal was like back in the day, like it's different now, but back in the day, our goal we're going to get on Barstool Idol as John and BA, and we're going to it was a whole thing. Like, but I think now he has a job kind of in the same kind of industry that he likes. Like now for me, it's like I'm just doing this for fun. It's 6 years later. It's not. This isn't going to be a career of mine. I like doing it for fun. But I think he would have a real shot. But I think he would suck like on air.
I think he would annoy Kirk. I do think that would happen.
I think he would suck on air, and he would say that. But I think he would be the best at like him cutting clips for the show, like all that stuff. Because he's very creative when he does that. All that side stuff. Like I think he would be great. On air would be his downfall, and I don't think Kirk will let him smoke cigarettes in the studio. So,
well, and he did say as much the other night. I heard you and Menners and John did a great job the other night, and he brought it up himself. I mean, he basically said, "Well, I'm not going to apply. I'm too far away." But then he kind of talked himself into it. If you heard a little bit, because Menners challenged him, he's like, "Well, you got to at least apply." And John basically said, "Well, I started learning these skills because of Kirk. It's because of him that I've now developed these, this set of skills." He did say he might still throw his hat in for the event job, though, if that could be a part-time thing, which makes sense because that's also what he does.
I think I think that's realistic because I think he would be good at merch, events, promotion, like that kind of stuff. So, I don't know about events because I've never seen him do an event, but I think he could be good as like an associate.
So Menners isn't going to like this part of the show. So
I mean, whatever. It's too bad. So like, Menners, you sent me a DM saying I won't interfere anymore and I won't blah blah blah. Yes, don't. Okay, John is our producer. We have fun. He's always available when we need him. But I do want to thank BA taking your time out. This was fun, brother. We'll see you in Saco. Danny, you have a good one too. And everybody, re-listen to this episode. It's a great one.
Absolutely. Thanks, BA. Thanks, Dave.
No worries.
See you, boys.
See ya.